We're here to talk about this. We're just doing it very, very, very... Hi. How are you? I'm just going to put the book in front.
And they shall call me Bookface.
Bookface. This is Godfall by Xander Odell. It is a fantastic collection, their first collection of short stories. And... you want to talk about Xander a little bit first, or should I just read the introduction?
Xander's a good friend of ours, who, like many good friends of ours, we ran into via escape artists, in that they started sending us stories. And we started buying them, because they were really good.
Because they're all good. There's a lot of Xander's stuff between Pseudopod, Podcastle, and Cast of Wonders.
I believe Xander has now done all 4.
No, I don't think Xander's had an escape pod story yet. I have to check, though. But... what was I gonna say? The 2 stories that we're gonna read tonight are also have already been podcast as well, so you can check them out with different narrators if you want to. Tim Meredith doesn't think you can pop tarts in the UK, or knows you can get them, but they try and keep them secret or something. Oh, should I go get them?
I bought 2 packs earlier today.
You bought 2 boxes earlier today. I just haven't had time to take them out of the bag yet, but. Tell Tim he needs to go to Iceland. Iceland has Pop-Tarts.
Maybe emphasize hurriedly the store, not the country.
Okay. Shall I read the introduction now? Or do you want to talk more?
I think you read the introduction now.
Okay. So I'm going to read the introduction. And then we've picked 2 stories. One is from this book, which is a fabulous book. And the other is from an Artemis Rising event we did a couple of years ago, which is, strangely enough, science fiction. And then we'll talk a little bit more about Xander's other work. I'm going to put a link. There. Okay, cool. So this is the introduction. And this is weird because I'm reading my own words, and I never do that because I don't write. In 2013, as a wet behind the ears editor who had just taken over from Barry J. Northern and Graham Dunlop at Cast of Wonders, I read my first Xander Odell story. A Dictionary's Apprentice is a brutal, beautiful tale of a post-literate society where life and limb are risked to keep the printed word alive in silent, unyielding protest against oppression. Reading Xander's work can be daunting. Fearless on the page, their work refuses to retreat behind opaque allegory as it drags injustice and prejudice before the reader's eyes. I think that's why their work translates so well into audio. Even when we might want to close our eyes and gloss over the unpleasant realities, the strength of their literary voice demands attention. Stories like this volume's Good Boy and Black Widow, along with the recent Meat showcased at Pseudopod, refuse to yield, confronting the reader head-on with realities sharp and horrible. But as a survivor themselves, Xander takes exquisite care that their brutal words are never nihilistic spectacle. There is hope and laughter, along with the hard choices and painful realizations. Hope for everyone, including trolls and rat catchers, and past their prime robotic divas. Lesser skilled authors would cavort through the grim-dark muck of their own creating, leaving readers to wallow in their wake. Instead, there is a rich, strong thread of inclusive justice to most of Xander's stories. Scalding condemnations of gaslighting, child abuse, and addiction. Explorations of imprisonment, cultural and environmental, as well as psychological and physical. Of the way the disabled are vilified, misunderstood, or discarded, not only by society, but their own families. Engaging with Xander's work can be an act of trust, one that is always rewarded, even as Xander themselves acknowledges the switchbacks and bumps along the road. Their notes regarding Black Widow and their Clarion West experience are some of the bravest process writing I've ever seen. It's hard to admit you're wrong, and harder still to be willing to go back into the mess you made, determined to clean it up for yourself and the others you may have impacted along the way. I hope their classmates realize what an act of courage it must have been not only to complete the workshop, but to publish the final piece. Read the afterword of the book for some more context. This collection is a fantastic introduction to the staggering range of Xander's short fiction. From Robot Noir to tattoo parlors, Xander brings us with them through candid explorations of genre and identity, liberally signpost with unflinching self-awareness. I'm honored to have published 4 of their stories at Cast of Wonders to date. This was written in 2017.
There's been like 3 or 4 more since then.
11 across the Escape Artist podcast in total, and I'm even more honored to call them a friend. The heroes of these pages do not have farm boy journeys. This is darker, stranger fare. But no easy answers await you, and you'll want both flashlight and tissues to hand. Be brave, be trusting, accept that reality is messier and sadder and more wonderful than the surface reveals as you harvest meaning from fallen gods.
Oh yeah, you can't write at all.
You're the word one. You're the wordy one. Right, now, are you going to read ink?
Which one would you prefer?
Let's start with ink.
Okay. I'm going to read off this.
But first, we're going to go over the content warnings, which I'm now going to put in the chat. So, the headline... the headline content warnings are death and dying, horror themes, mental health, swearing, smoking, alcohol, and violence. Remember that there is a permanent link that you can always check for detailed content warnings. These are the headlines. If you need more information, please do take a moment and check them out. And if you need to step away, that's fine. This story is roughly 4,500 words, which means we'll be done in 20 to 25 minutes if you need to come back. And chat, you are in for a treat. This... Of all of Xander's work, between Godfall and this, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Ink. It is a hell of a story. As Alasdair quickly thumbs through the table of contents to get to the story. Meanwhile, I could just hand it to you. Would you like that? No? And now, a brief jazz musical interlude, apparently. Okay. Really? Now you're just rubbing funk on it.
There should be a table of contents, surely.
Yes, surely there should be. We're terribly prepared this evening, everyone.
Toad's profesh.
Yeah, okay, fine. Should I vamp? It's page 72 in my book.
Page 72. What's the story before it?
How Toby Told Time.
Great.
Godfall is the first. Go to page 72. Speaking of Godfall, it's the story this book is named after. You can find it on Podcastle?
Yes, you can.
You can find it on Podcastle.
Read by.
Narrated by Anson Mount, a.k.a. Captain Christopher Pike from Star Trek Discovery.
He does such a good job, too.
Oh, God. Let's talk about voices. You know I love you, but voices.
I know. I know.
We are not well prepared with this. Yeah. Almost that. Keep scrolling. So yeah, do check that out if you like. There it is. And then we'll talk about another one of Xander's stories, which also has a celebrity narrator, but has a whole lot more content warnings in a little bit. So I'm going to scoot out and give you the camera, and I'll be back.
Chocolate hobnobs to dip in tea. Nice. And also a good reminder, now is a very good time, if you are going to stick around for the story, to get comfortable and take your meds, make sure you're fully hydrated, make sure your pets and everyone in the house is good to go, and do what I just want extra credit for the fact that I did all that. Was Wendy was saying, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, we're all voice actors cheating on you with Anson Mount. Sorry, Alasdair, I don't make the rules.
That's okay. His wife's lovely. I'll let her know.
And, I wouldn't blame you. And Compos, you have nothing to apologise for. That was wonderful. Thank you. Ink by Xander Odell. A woman stood at the tattoo parlour's door. Small, damp from the storm. Hair dishevelled and slightly askew. We've done content warnings, right?
Yes, we have.
Cool. Comfortable in her clothes, not her skin. The sight of her made Tiger's chest itch and his tattoos tingle. He turned down the stereo. Can I help you with something? The woman looked at the shelves stuffed with pattern books, The posters of half-naked men and women displaying their tattoos and piercings. Is this Stars and Stripes Inc.? Her voice had a touch of falsetto. That's what the sign says in the window. She brushed aside her bangs, tugging her hair back into place in a way Tiger supposed he wasn't meant to notice. I would like a tattoo. She smiled with suspicion and hope, an expression he knew oh so well. Tiger dog-eared his page and set the magazine aside. What do you have in mind? Like he had to ask. He stifled the twinge of jealousy and rubbed at the scars below his nipples, all that remained of his breast. Straightening her shoulders, the woman walked up to the counter and handed him a folded sheet of white paper dappled with rain. Tiger spread the paper on the counter and considered the picture. A coiled Asian dragon with a lion's mane, pearl clutched in one claw, lightning in the other, vibrant colours and sharp, decisive lines. Hyper-masculine, all claws, teeth and attitude, not at all like her. Tiger settled back on his stool and rubbed a hand under his chin, the stubble rasping over his knuckles. How'd you hear about the shop? She blinked, hesitated. From friends. I don't answer my question. Who? The woman looked at the counter, the posters anywhere but at Tiger. Finally, Gwen Winston, she said you did excellent work. She looked at him at the corner of her eye. I've never seen it. The tattoo, I mean. The last one came out in a rush. On Gwen? You wouldn't. Gwenny was good people, one of his first special customers, when he opened the shop. I didn't mean to insult you, she flushed. Something that sounds too good to be true usually is. Gwen didn't think so. Tiger waited for that to sink in before he tapped the picture. Where do you want it? She pressed her fingers to the formica countertop until the tips were pale as bone. My back. My upper back. How much? Tiger kept his gaze on her face, looking, seeing. She wasn't starving, but didn't have a lot of money invested in her clothes, probably lived paycheck to paycheck if she could find work, lived off friends when she couldn't. Still, the guy had to eat, and he had signed a new lease last month. 2,000 cash, 2,500 if you pay by card. The woman winced. For a tattoo? He shrugged. Cheaper than you find anywhere else. She slipped her hand into her purse. Do I need to sign something? And do I need to wait a minute for Twitch to catch back up?
We seem to be dropping frames again. Yeah, I was just noticing that. Shall we give it a second? Why don't we go to a technical difficulties screen for a moment and give it a chance to catch up?
We're going to go to technical difficulties for a second, folks.
If I can. Hold on. Hey folks, we are still dropping frames, but
What we're going to try and do is push on, and hopefully I have the line from which things start to drop. Hopefully the buffer will catch us up. I didn't mean to insult you. She flushed. Something that sounds too good to be true usually is. Gwen didn't think so. Tiger waited for that to sink in before he tapped the picture. Would you want it? She pressed her fingers to the formica countertop until the tips were pale as bone. My back, she said, cleared her throat, and added more assertively, my upper back. How much? Tiger kept his gaze on her face, looking, seeing. She wasn't starving, but didn't have a lot of money invested in her clothes. Probably lived paycheck to paycheck if she could find work, and he'd signed in lived off friends when she couldn't. Still, a guy had to eat, and he'd signed a new lease last month. 2,000 cash, 2,500 if you pay by card. The woman winced. For a tattoo? He shrugged. Cheaper than you'll find anywhere else. She slipped her hand into her purse. Do I need to sign anything? Do I need to leave proof that I came to a place like this? Tiger was used to that, too. For a special request. Not unless you want to. Her hands trembled as she pulled a flat red wallet from her handbag and counted out a stack of tattered bills. Tiger stuffed the money in his jeans pocket. Why don't you take your coat off? I'll get the things ready. Prep was easy. Normal. Tiger scanned the picture, made a couple of copies at different sizes. He presented them on the counter, tapped the larger image. This one's got the best detail with the fangs and the scales on the tail. She reached towards the smaller image with wide, blunt-tipped fingers, but didn't touch the paper. This one looks almost cute. Yeah, but the detail on this one will really make it pop. He waited, fingers framing the dragon's head. She swallowed. How does it work? Tiger ran his thumb over the mane. I tattoo the design. It takes away everything you don't want. The woman frowned. The expression did nothing to soften her jawline. Just like that. Just like that. But how do you do it? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Tiger snorted. I don't understand how a nuclear bomb works. They're real. She crossed her arms over her chest. I can ask a nuclear physicist how a bomb works and expect a full answer. A challenge. I demand to know why she should believe him. Tiger put the money on the counter. No hard feelings. Have a nice night. That caught her by surprise. She stared at the wad of green. He hadn't played the game. He should have balked or sweet-talked or lied. His parents used to do it all the time. The clock flashed from 1 minute to the next. The woman tangled her fingers in the front of her skirt, then smoothed out her wrinkles, a gesture straight out of a romance novel. All right. I'm ready. Rocket. I'll make the stencil, have a smoke, wash my hands, then we're ready to go. And drink some tea. The woman tucked a lock of limp hair behind her left ear. Sure. Okay. Outside, the storm had blown itself out, and the parking lot asphalt reflected the streetlights in twisted rainbows. The air was sharp with car exhaust and Mexican night from the beer pit 2 doors down. Tiger would have preferred a shop off the main drag, but he couldn't complain about the impulse business of anchors and butterfly tramp stamps. Life in the Navy town made for good money after payday. He leaned against the front of his pickup and rolled the smoke. His tattoos shifted under his skin, expectant. One ink slid over from his right kidney to the top of his right thigh. The quadriceps spasmed, and he dug a knuckle into his T-shot sight until the tattoos settled their differences and the muscle relaxed. Crowded real estate down there, and pretty damn tender when ink fought ink for display space. No big deal. He'd figure out who won later. He lit the cigarette and inhaled, and that first unfiltered drag burned. An addiction, like getting a new tattoo. He took his time, watching the smoke curl up from his lips and unravel in the night. No hurries, no worries. Not yet, anyway. Tiger pinched the butt, swallowed it. and headed back inside. The woman paced in front of the Pepsi machine while he set up his workstation. Guns, line, shading needles, bottles of ink, small plastic cups, nitrile gloves, green soap, and cotton pads. He put on Lou Rawls' Stormy Monday to clear the air and open his headspace, and motioned to the tattooist's chair laid flat beside his work area, behind the counter. "I'm ready when you are." So she walked over and stopped at the edge of the counter. "Do I have to get undressed?" He chalked the question up to her nerves. "I'll need to see you back." She took a hesitant step towards the chair. "You never asked my name. I figured you'd tell me if you wanted me to know." She frowned, then looked him in the eye with the same resolution that first brought her into the shop. "Liza Patton." Tiger nodded and flashed a quick smile. "Tiger Haynes." She pointed to his left shoulder. "The reason for your tattoo, or is it ink? Which is right? Either's fine." He looked at the cut-out collar of his black t-shirt and the wide orange head with its blood-stained teeth and forked tongue draped over his collarbone. The rest of the beast covered most of his upper back, the tail curling over his right shoulder, the equivalent of 3 months' rent to get it just right. He'd been so damn proud. His parents had disowned him. This was my first. "How many do you have?" "Not enough. Never enough." Again he motioned to the chair. "I lost track a while ago." Liza made herself comfortable on the centre section. She reached towards the top button of her blouse. "I'd rather not take off my bra." "Suits me fine." Off came the blouse. She bundled it over her chest. "Will it hurt?" Tiger noted the piss-poor repair ink on her right shoulder, hints of a word under the bloom. He'd also noticed the 2 thin pink scars under the bangles on each wrist. He pulled on the gloves, smoothed the fingers in place. "Will it hurt? That is a hell of a question. Some people handle it better than others." "No, I mean, will it, hurt?" No mistaking the fear beneath the words. Tiger's tattoos twisted and twitched with memories. "That all depends on you. Did yours hurt?" "In more ways than one. Like a bitch." Lisa nodded and wrapped herself in silence. "Roll your shoulders in. Lean forward a bit." He pulled the straps of her lacy black bra over her prominent shoulder blades. Moles dotted her back, some spreading hairs like spiders, trying to escape her skin. All low enough they shouldn't be a problem. He washed her back with antimicrobial soap and followed it with an alcohol wipe. While that dried, Tiger filled a disposable cup with rinse water and the ink caps with individual colours. The 3 S's: sterile, separate, single use. His work area had the sex appeal of an operating room. Nothing like the cool tattoo parlours he'd seen on cop shows growing up. That suited Tiger just fine. He preferred health and safety. He'd leave cool to the ink. And take a pause there and ask how the stream is doing.
From what I can tell, it seems to be stable and catching up a bit, which is nice.
He smoothed lotion between her shoulder blades to help the stencil design stick. "You shaking? You cold?" Liza made a sound like a laugh. "Excited." "Good." He positioned the stencil on her back and smoothed it with the edge of his hands. Slow count to 10, and he pulled the thermal fax paper away, leaving behind the design in cartoon-bright purple lines. Tiger leaned back to consider his work. He gestured with a hand mirror towards a mirror on the wall at the end of the counter. "Go have a look. Tell me it's beautiful or I can move it." Liza shook her head. "Whatever you think is best. That's not how it's fine. I trust you." Big words for a small voice. "You sure about this? It's going to feel kind of fucked up when things get going." Liza nodded. "I'm sure. Been sure for years." The lady knew what she wanted. Tiger dipped the line work needle into the ink cap, tapped the foot pedal, and drew black ink into the gun's reservoir. The tiger tattoo purred like the hammering rumble of the coil gun. All right, then. He brought the needle to the topmost purple line of the mane and pressed the foot pedal. He laid the ink in one delicate, precise line at a time. People who didn't know tattoo work thought the needle injected ink into the skin, when it actually glided along and let gravity do the work. This part of tattooing, the line work that defined the piece, this was why Tiger learned how to ink. From the early childhood sketchbooks to the graffiti in his teens, it always came down to this moment. The stroke of ink on a willing body. Everything else, just gravy. The tiger tattoo watched him work, licking between its clawed toes. Liza didn't move. At the first touch of the needle, she became stone for all that her heart raced beneath his hands. Only once did she make a sound, a whimpering sob, the first time the needle passed over her spine. He refilled the reservoir as an excuse to pause. When she made no other sound, he continued. Line work done, he rinsed out the black ink and swapped out for his rotary gun. Lighter, better suited to shading. How are you doing? You need a break? Liza shook her head. Walk it off a bit. I'm fine. Her voice had lost some of its girlish charm. She coughed. You can keep going. All right. He worked quickly, but without rushing, giving his full attention to the shadows sliding around the edges of every line. Add depth here, there, layering. Wipe the blood away. Repeat. He turned the sparse lines of the nose into a muzzle, took simple diamond patterns on the body, and created scales. If everything went right, any minute now he should see there. The dragon shook out its mane and turned its head to watch the tattoo gun. Tiger slowed down, adding detail and gauging the dragon's strength with every refill of ink. He both loved and hated this part. Years ago, he had screwed the pooch on a special tattoo of a fancy teacup and saucer on the shoulder of an older man, gotten so high on the inking that he ruined the design. The guide stormed out in tears, refusing a repair, a second chance. Tiger often wondered what happened to him, if he'd gone back to living a lie. Wondered at moments like this, in fact. He rinsed out the black ink and slid his palette of ink caps closer. Hold still now. Shit just got real. Liza let out a tiny, mewling moan, but didn't move. Maybe she was braver than she looked. Tiger sure hoped so. A darker green first to bring out the shadows. Tiger took a deep breath and touched the colour to Liza's skin. Sweet pain swept up his hands to his soul. Holy Mary, Mother of Jesus, the rush. The dragon rubbed itself against the needle, eager for colour. Demanded all the attention, all the awestruck wonder. It was the biggest, baddest motherfucker in the valley, and Tiger liked it that way. Nothing mattered but the ink, always the ink, the way the tattoo shook its mane and twisted its tail. Dance, baby. Another shot of scotch, around for the house. He rode the colours in the high until a sound slammed him back to the table. Sound. Crying. Who? Liza crying, muted sobs, cradling even softer words. No. Tiger's hands froze mid-curl of blue on the dragon's tail. His tattoos crowded his forearms until the skin was matte blank. More ink! All but the tiger. It stayed on his shoulder, claws pricking tiny reminders of flesh and reason along his lower back. He took a deep breath, cleared away the taste of scotch peat and bitter ink. He rinsed and refilled the gun, pressed the back of his left hand against the squirming tattoo. Against Liza. He is still with me. She cringed at the contact, the sound of his voice. Cringed like he hadn't spent the last 4 hours getting under her skin. Cringed like he'd hit her. Just because he couldn't see the scars didn't mean they weren't there. Tiger licked his lips. How about break? Still no answer. Only the same frightened tears. He set down the gun. You know what? We're done here. Let me get you cleaned up. That brought her out of it. Liza looked over her shoulder, pale and wild-eyed. No, don't stop. She wiped her nose on her arm, leaving a glistening line, and softer, Please. My dad would... Please. Tiger chewed on the ends of his moustache. Was a tattoo the same as a punch? Time may have healed all wounds, but ink lasted until the end, and with it the sting of guilt. He couldn't chance ruining another person's life. I can't do this. Please. Liza curled tighter into herself as if offering more of her back, the dragon twisting like a cyclone knot. She coughed, clearing her throat. Whatever you want, I can pay. Her voice ran deep and ragged, the voice of living a lie. Tiger stripped off his gloves. It's not about the money. Please, I can't go on like this. Oh, God damn it. God damn it. Tiger squeezed his eyes shut. Once upon a time, he would have given his imaginary left nut to swap places with her. He'd gone through his transition the old-fashioned way, hormones, scalpels and all. The tattoos on his arms tingled with need, but this wasn't about them, or him, or his invisible scars. This was all about her. She began to cry once more. I don't know what else to do. The tiger tattoo rubbed its head against the side of his neck. Tiger had seen what she might do on the inside of each wrist. He pressed his lips together until they throbbed with his pulse. You're sure? Liza nodded, a quick downward jerk of the head. Tiger grabbed a fresh set of gloves. Remember to breathe. This time, when the ink highs slammed up his veins, Tiger wrapped the memory of Liza's tears around its neck and told it to sit the fuck down. He had work to do. As if sensing the change of mood, the dragon flipped the tip of its tail back and forth in agitation. It threatened with lightning and teeth. It was the biggest, baddest motherfucker in the valley, remember? Yeah, Tiger remembered. And he was the one with the ink on. 30 minutes of electric sweat, and the last of the colour was laid. Perfect. Actually one of his best. Tiger jammed the needle into the skin at the base of Liza's left shoulder blade and sliced her open, bottom to top. Liza's head came up. She inhaled a scream that came out of the dragon as a roar. Tiger dug his fingers into Liza's back and tore the skin away, revealing muscle and a writhing tattoo. It smelled like beer and motor oil, gunpowder, sweat, semen, manly man smells from manly men, not a girly boy who wore his sister's underwear and stole his mother's lipstick. The dragon whipped its tail around Liza's spine. She jerked upright, choking on her pain. He grabbed the tattoo by the head. It sank its teeth into the meat below his thumb. You little bastard! Get out of there! Tiger put his feet against the base of the chair and pulled until his ink knotted with the effort and his arms burned like a white-hot star. Now or never. Now or never. He took a deep breath and threw himself back against his workstation. The dragon's claws gave way, it screamed, and its tail came free. Tiger pulled up the back of his t-shirt and slapped Liza's tattoo onto his lower back. The ink sank into his skin, screaming rage up his spine. The other tattoos rushed to greet the latest member of the menagerie. Muscles clenched, chasing the rage until it faded to sullen exhaustion. He slid off the stool to the floor, laughing and swearing. The best tattoos always hurt like a son of a bitch. He stayed on the floor until the spasms eased and the knots of ink separated into individual colours and designs, each content in their own stories. Well, almost content. Liza's tattoo flailed in the centre of his back, then slid down and to the right. Tiger rolled over and pulled up his t-shirt in time to see a scattering of butterflies rush up his side and the dragon's tail slide into his pants. The sharp heat of fresh ink settled around his t-shirt side. That could get interesting come Sunday night when he did his injection. When he could trust his legs, Tiger got to his feet and pulled down his shirt. He bandaged his throbbing hand in cotton and blue painter's tape. Liza lay on her left side on the chair, hair askew, back smeared with ink. Ashamed to wake her, but he was more than done for the night. He tapped her shoulder. Hey, I need you to sit up. We're all done. Liza rubbed her eyes. What time is it? Her voice sounded soft and in no way forced. Time to get you cleaned up. She sat still and calm as a drowsing cat as he cleaned her back and rubbed in more lotion. Her skin was smooth and a touch red, but otherwise looked good. No ink. No blood. While he worked, Liza touched her throat. She removed her wig. Her hair underneath was a light brown, touched with grey at the temples. Short, but it would grow out. She ran a hand over her head. Wow, Wow. Tiger stifled a yawn. He pointed to the mirror on the wall. Take a look. Liza frowned and reached a hand over her shoulder to touch her back. Is that? Tiger passed her a hand mirror, nodded towards the wall. Blouse still clutched to her chest. Liza stood and walked to the mirror. Her clothes fit differently now, over her narrower waist, wider hips. There's no tattoo. What? She turned to face the mirror. Oh my God, it's real. It's... Liza stretched the waistband of her skirt, looked inside. The worm is gone. Get it? Worm? Worm? The dragon. She put her hand to her mouth and began to cry. Guess she liked what she saw.
I know.
Oh.
Take a breath. Take a drink of water.
Holy shit, Xander.
I know. I love this story.
Oh.
Can you finish it? Okay.
Tiger gathered his tools and inks, tossed the used cotton into the biohazard bin. He moved on automatic, drifting in and out of his... pardon me. Post-ink high. Needles in the autoclave, wipe down, pick up, place for everything in its place. At least he learned one good thing from his mother. Liza dropped the blouse and pulled 2 silicone breast forms out of her bra. She stared at what remained in the cups, then met his gaze in the mirror. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Oh, God, thank you. Thank you. He retrieved her blouse, handed it to her. Drop a tip in the jar if you want. I need to lock up. Sure. Liza giggled. I even sound like the real me. I feel different when I walk, and my throat. Thank you so much. Great. Sure. Whatever. Tiger needed to get her out of the shop before his twinge of jealousy turned into bitterness and binge drinking when he got home. Liza gathered her coat and purse, and he walked her to the door. Someone had scattered stars in the patches of the clear night sky. Further south, dogs complained about a fire truck speeding through the night. She turned to face him. If you don't mind, I do have one question. Most of them did. Shoot. Liza stared at the tattoos on his arms, a collage of masculine and feminine. How many of these are your own work? 22. Her eyes widened. God, really? Yeah. Not really. She seemed like one of those people with a need for numbers. He remembered the face and tattoo of every special customer. The numbers, not so much. Where's mine? A few of the tattoos shifted to get a better look at her. Tiger almost hoped she noticed. It's safe. Liza searched his face, nodded. I didn't leave a tip, but I can't thank you enough. It's all good. Tiger passed her a business card from his back pocket. You know someone who needs work? Send them my way. Male, female, anywhere or nowhere between. Don't matter. Liza dropped the card into her purse. Tiger waited until her battered Ford Escort pulled out of the parking lot before he flipped the signs and locked the door. The tiger tattoo licked his chin with its rough, forked tongue. Holy fuck.
So yeah, I love that story. I hope Xander makes a whole novel about this character and this world.
Or you could do a response to the Illustrated Man.
It would make such a beautiful anime, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
To see
Oh.
it animated would be absolutely phenomenal.
Or one of those little 15-minute anthology shows like Tokyo Midnight. Midnight Diner.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. So yeah, Xander's a hell of a writer.
You'll need this book. It's very good.
It's very, very good. Yeah, and exactly what other people have picked on. You know, Tiger talks about how his own transition was, as he calls it, the old-fashioned way. And yet now he has this power and he offers it to others. And it's just... Oh, the feels. The feels. Yeah.
So that's the first piece we've got for you tonight.
Exactly. Should I get set up for the second one real quick? Because you need to rest your voice. I can tell you're a little sore tonight.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right. Hold on a second. Give us a second while I come on over.
All right. You want to scooch?
Yeah, I'll scooch.
Do you want to just trade?
You want to sit in the big
Okay,
chair?
We'll trade chairs. Okay, go.
When you popped up.
Really?
Yeah.
That would be nice.
You want a hot one or a cold one?
That cold is fine. Here we go. All right, my turn. Whee! Playing musical chairs. And I've got the headset on, even though this is the microphone I'm talking through. So it's just going to look a little weird. All right, so the next story we're going to do is not actually in the book. It was on Cast of Wonders. And I have to open it up. He's okay. It's just 1, heart on sleeve, and 2, his throat's a little sore. So that one's rough. So the next story we're going to do, also by Xander, is called The Absolute Temperature of Outer Space. It was published in Cast of Wonders in 2017 as part of an Artemis Rising special. I do not have it to hand. Mods, can I bother you to refresh the content wordings in the chat, please? I believe this one specifically is. I'm gonna find my link and I'm gonna riff while I do so. So the content warnings for this story are loading. Please wait. Death and dying. Death, grief, and a brief discussion of suicide. Horror themes, ghosts, and a reference to a chewed lip which bleeds. And I'm going to go shut the door because he didn't close the door and I can hear him rifling around with the plates. I think it'll be fine. Let's just read the story, shall we? The Absolute Temperature of Outer Space by Xander Odell. Dwanda watches her dad bound across the lunar landscape and shivers inside her jacket. The moon lifts him higher than anyone on Earth could jump and sets him gently down again, a kangaroo in a spacesuit. Sunlight flashes bright white across his helmet. She chooses not to notice the ragged tear down the right side of his bulky suit, or the way she can see him through to the gray, airless expanse beyond. The shuttleport crowd paces around the clear observation dome to make room for their excitement and boredom. They talk softly amongst themselves or watch the swarm of service bots making a final safety check on the shuttle Io. A few browse the souvenir stands for last-minute gifts or keepsakes from their lunar vacation. Her mom settles down beside Dwanda on the couch. Brought you some cocoa. Dwanda reluctantly turns and accepts the drink bulb. The warm plastic molds to her fingers. She takes a sip. Thanks. Mom stretches out her legs and crosses her ankles. I talked to Grandma Harlow before I turned in our chits. She said they bought a whole pig for the barbecue. Remy's all set to put it in the ground once we get out of grav training. Dwanda zips her jacket up to her chin and turns back to the lunar landscape. Her dad squats, leaps high in the air, and lands with a skip and a jump. He waves to her. Hello, hello. Dwanda barely lifts her right hand and waves back, hoping her mom doesn't notice. Aren't you excited about seeing Selena in person? You two talk about that all the time. Another sip of cocoa. On Earth, they use cow milk to make cocoa instead of soy milk. Gross. I guess. Grandma says Selena's excited to introduce you to all her friends. You'll fit in. Dwanda lets the words drift away. Mom always talks about such dumb stuff since, well, it makes Dwanda crazy. Besides, what does she care about new friends? They won't have anything in common. The hum of the air recyclers pauses as the new filters are locked in place. Dwanda clenches her jaw to keep her teeth from chattering. Dad crawls up a pile of boulders near the lift pad. He sets down his left hand, the rock crumbles, and he tumbles backwards in slow motion, head over heels. He lands on his back. The gash in his suit opens onto a gray and lonely nothing. Dwanda's breath tangles in a scream. Something hot and wet splatters over the back of her hand. Ow! She drops the drink bulb. Mom catches it before it hits on the floor. Careful with that. A woman with short gray hair and leg braces of a first settler pauses to snap images with her spamera. Dwanda cranes her neck, trying to see around the woman. Is Dad okay? Please be okay. Please be okay. Dwanda's ready to knock the woman out of the way when she drops the spamera back in a jumper pocket and continues her circuit around the dome. There he is. Dad stands at the top of the boulders, arms raised in triumph. He bows to the service bots, bows to Dwanda, then turns again and bows to Earth, hanging like a big blue marble in the sky. Dwanda sighs with relief. He's okay. Mom dabs at the splatter of cocoa on the carpet with a tissue. Hold on, what was that? Nothing. Why don't you take your jacket off, honey? You must be roasting in that thing. Dwanda shivers and slides down in her seat. I'm fine. So damn cold. Mom won't let her cuss, but she can think it all she wants. She stuffs her hands in her jacket pockets. She wouldn't be so cold if Dad were still here, but wishing won't bring him back or make the cold go away. Nothing will ever make the cold go away. 2 shuttleport employees in yellow jumpers begin to remove the first level of dogging from the airlock, locking the heavy metal fasteners onto the frame. The man wears walking socks and moves with the casual grace of 1/6 gravity. The woman has work boots with thick black soles and takes heavy, careful steps like she's afraid she'll fall and float away. Probably a recent arrival from Earth. Outside the dome, Dad hops across the moonscape and waves to Dwanda again. Come on out. There's so much to see. I can take you on that moonwalk I always promised I would. What do you think? Dwanda doesn't look away from Dad out there alone, with no one to help if he had a problem. About what? About taking a few days to ourselves after we've settled. Maybe visit the Grand Canyon or something. The female employee steps carefully over to the airlock, passes her ID bracelet over the sensor, and punches in a 6-digit code. The light above the airlock changes from red to yellow, and the shuttleport employees make their way out of the dome. Everyone on Mayor Abram Base knows the code to close an airlock, but opening one takes an additional identifier code given to authorized personnel only. What had the woman pressed? 58774? Then what? 1? Or another 4? Had to be one of the two. The identifier code is always entered twice, a holdover redundancy that used to drive Dad crazy. If Dwanda can get the airlock open, she can go outside before anyone can stop her. Give Dad a hug. Say goodbye. It can't be any colder than she feels deep inside. Dwanda? The airlock would close before anybody got hurt. She could do it. Mom sighs. Dwanda, don't be like this. 4. The woman had most likely pushed 4. Honey, I only want... Dad hops on one foot and flaps his arms the way he used to in the bubble pool. Dwanda misses swimming with him, splashing and racing to the edge of the water. Last one there's a flat soda bulb. I don't care. I know it's hard, honey, but your father would want us to make the best of it, and we will. Dwanda looks back and forth between Dad and the keypad. Whatever. Mom puts a gentle hand on Dwanda's shoulder. She shrugs it away. Dad dances across the gray moonscape on the service spots as they seal the I.O. ports. She has to be certain. Enter the code wrong and the airlock will lock down until cleared by authorities. 587744, right? It's almost time to start boarding. She doesn't have much time left. Baby, look at me. A 6-wheeled tractor bot rolls forward, and Dwanda loses sight of her dad. Mom continues, Command needs to fill your father's billet, and they only have so many family allotments available. We have to go Earthside. We don't have a choice. Please be okay. Please. Please. We do so. We could apply for emergency quarters until we find a smaller apartment. Dwanda turns on Mom. We've talked about this before. Every moment screaming, sobbing, begging for Dad to come home rushes out all at once. No, you've talked about it before. You need to talk. Mom winces. Baby, please. People are looking. Let them look. I don't care. All you ever do is talk anymore, and I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. I don't want to go to Earth, and I don't want to go to the stupid Grand Canyon. Dwanda launches herself out of the chair and bounds over to the dome. She puts her forehead to the insulated glass, willing the cold of the airless horizon to fill her heart and take away the pain. She wants to be cold, numb, unfeeling. Feeling means loving, and loving means hurting forever when someone dies. But she's begun to melt, and the tears won't stop. Outside, Dad waves to her. The gash in his suit gapes wide. 5 people stand between Dwanda and the airlock keypad. One man glances at his palm pal and steps away to take a call. Dwanda wipes her face, takes 3 steps to the right. She can't leave Dad alone. He would start to miss her or forget her, and Dwanda can't bear to be lost to his memory. A woman cradling a sleepy baby returns to her seat. Dwanda wipes her face again and takes another step right. 1 hug. That's all she wants. The keypad status light flashes yellow, awaiting the final confirmation. 587744. Someone comes to stand beside her on her left. Dwanda moves a half step away before she realizes it's her mom staring out at the I.O., picking at her eyebrows 1 hair at a time. Mom started picking after Dad died, making her brows swell and sometimes bleed. It's nothing, Mom would say before wiping her hands on her pants and changing the subject. Cold guilt settles in the pit of Dwanda's stomach. She wants to apologize for causing a scene, but the words can't make it past the icy fingers wrapped around her throat. They used to be a family. Now Dwanda can't do anything but stay in bed during night cycle and listen to Mom cry, wishing more than she'd ever wished for anything, that she can bring Dad back and make it all right again. Another woman wanders away, leaving 2 people. Dwanda sidles another step closer to the airlock. When your dad suggested a marriage contract, I had no idea we'd wind up on the moon. Mom says as an automated track tug maneuvers the I.O. into position. I hated it at first. You think the new arrivals look funny? You should have seen me. I look like a drunk goose. The last woman moves away from the wall, leaving only an elderly man standing between Dwanda and the flashing yellow keypad. She chews on her bottom lip. Warm blood slicks the tip of her tongue. Dad climbs onto the track tug and jumps onto the nose of the shuttle, a massive boulder of silicone and metal. Mom doesn't move. And we were so happy when you were born. You look like a little brown bean. We named you after your dad's favorite auntie. I told you that, didn't I? Yeah. Dwanda had even seen a picture of her great aunt sitting with her dad on the front stoop of his grandparents' house. Now I'm going back to Earth, but it's like your dad's still here. I can go back to the apartment and he'll be there at his comp, ready to share some silly, stupid comment on this latest vidimation. He'll always be there, even when he's not. Mom touches her fingertips to the clear dome wall. I miss him so damn much. A trio of chimes sounds over the intercom, followed by a pleasant feminine voice. Attention, outboard passengers. Fueling is complete, and we will soon begin the boarding process. Please remember to weigh and check your bags. Sleep aids and nausea inhibitors are available from the personal products kiosks located near the restrooms. The man by the airlock hurries to the kiosks with a handful of other passengers. Any minute now, the service workers will return. The bots will extend the boarding bridge from the airlock, and she'll lose her chance to get to Dad. I don't know what I'd do if anything happened to you, too. Dad does a slow somersault off the nose of the shuttle and lands on the far side of the track tug. He raises his arms, dances a little jig. Tears roll slowly down Mom's cheeks. Meltwater runoff. Not once does she raise her voice or turn from the dome. What is she looking at? Does she see Dad? Or Dwanda rushing through the airlock to reach him? Dwanda catches the reflection of a yellow jumpsuit in the dome. Something sharp and cold cracks inside her heart. I miss him too. Mom reaches out a hand. I know, baby. What does she want Mom to see? The shuttleport employees reach the airlock. Need you to step aside, please, says the woman. After a moment, Dwanda steps left. She and Mom board the IO with the other passengers, finding their seats in the shuffle of bodies. Mom takes the bulkhead, leaving Dwanda the aisle. Dwanda unzips her jacket. A crew person checks their ID bracelets and safety harnesses. Heading back to Earth? He says with a smile. Dwanda ducks her head. We're moving to Chicago. He nods. Great city. My sister lives there. And moves on to the next row. As the massive engines roar to life, the screen at the front of the passenger compartment fills with a final up-close look at the barren lunar landscape. Thank you, Mom says, without taking her eyes off the screen. Neither does Dwanda. For what? Mom takes her hand. For not giving up. Dwanda holds on tight. Goodbye. Goodbye. Dad waves to the departing shuttle before the screens wink out. I love that story. I know. I'm getting a little teary again. I held it together. But yeah, yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's so sweet and it's so powerful and it's so logical. It's like, of course they're grieving. And of course they're grieving in parallel because teenage daughters and mothers and... all
of the feelings.
All.
Can open.
Oh, okay, I'll scoot over. Here we go. That's better. Ooh, now I messed up the camera. Can open.
Feelings everywhere.
Feelings everywhere. We have got to get a rap silence emoji because the chat's been like dead for 20 minutes. I was like, did I break it? Is everybody still here? Oh no!
Oh no! I've been watching your feed, and everyone's like, oh no!
Oh, I know. It's such a wonderful story. I'm really happy with that one. It's not. Can you grab me the book real quick? That story is not in the book, but it was published on Cast of Wonders, which we'll put in the stream show notes, so you can get it basically for free. So I'm going to talk just for another moment or two about the other stories that are in here that you might want to pick up.
Awful.
And then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back for some video game shenanigans to try and lighten the mood. How about that? As we talked about, Xander is an incredibly diverse writer. You've heard some science fiction and some urban fantasy.
The horror. My God, the horror.
Xander also writes two other very difficult genres, one of which is brutalist body horror. There is a story on Pseudopod written by Xander called Meat. I think it's one of the only three Pseudopod stories I've ever listened to that have made me nope out. It was that brutal. That story has some really, really, really big content warnings associated with it. But one of the other reasons I really love that story is it is narrated by Linda Hamilton. That Linda Hamilton. Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton. And it's like one of my top 10 EA performances ever. It's if you like very dark, difficult, brutal fare, that story is one you shouldn't miss. It's very, very good. The other genre that Xander likes to write is potty humor. They have a whole bunch of great stories about trolls and what trolls are known for doing. One of the stories about trolls in this book, the troll wants to grow up to be a florist, and his family's not having it, and it's hilarious and poopy and fun. It's really good.
There is at some point Xander and Ursula will cooperate on the ultimate troll story.
Oh my god! I need that so much.
The Ratatouille one with the one that just really wants to be a chef.
Right, and there's another one that talks about trolls who work at water parks and how... Okay, this might get a little ooky, so you might want to close your ears for a second. But if you think about it, water parks are kind of really, really, really weak human soup. And trolls traditionally eat humans, so there's some synergy there from a business perspective.
I'm never going to watch Class Action Park in quite the same light again.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really fun story. I think that one's also on Cast of Wonders, if I remember correctly.
I'm sure I have albums by Human Croutons.
Human Croutons? That would be a good band name. I think Human Croutons would. Yeah, right? Sorry, Stryker. Water parks are kind of human soup when you think about it. Oh, it's scary. It's nasty. So yeah, I think that's everything. I hope everybody's enjoyed this. We are huge fans, obviously, as you can tell, and they're such a broad-ranging, deep-hitting author.
I absolutely promise you there will be 4 stories in this anthology that are amongst the best short fiction you've ever read. And I absolutely promise you that everyone who buys the book will find 4 entirely different short stories that are amongst the best short stories you've ever read.
Yeah, exactly. So we would strongly encourage you to pick it up. Xander also has a collection of Christmas stories, if I understand correctly. We do not have that
Which
one.
we need to do something about.
I believe so.
That could be Christmas this year.
Ooh.